enjoy the show, play on my channel.
An Amish bank account.
I guess it's the beard, man.
No, you give me very Amish. You give me Amish vibes. I was just on the phone. I was on the phone with my my author, Jillian Russo. Yeah, man. So I had my first shoot with her and her wearable flower book. It was essentially, it's like a ballerina with like a skirt of flowers, Red Riding Hood, her hood's flowers. Got an awesome idea with Delco Batman and a poison ivy.
Ooh,
He didn't like the cape of flowers, so I figured, like, well, what if we just have you in there and we'll have poison ivy and stuff, you know? So it's a very creative venture on my end. It's almost like comics and stuff like that, and I'm just like spitballing them out there. I'm like, you need 100 pages? I'll help you get there. So it's really awesome. And then being the photographer on that is a whole other thing, because I'll say I studied photography, but I've always been a fan of photography. And I took a class in high school to where I was a cigarette smoker. So that was a reason to where I could just go grab a smoke and then take some pictures of some stuff. Put your hands in the black bag with the 35 millimeter film and get it ready for the red room, all that stuff. And with digital photography nowadays, it seems like everybody can be a photographer.
Yeah.
And especially with editing software, I have a Rebel T6 Canon camera. There's like a bundle that gives you like a bag with like 2 awesome lenses and a bunch of filters and different a hood, different stuff in there. Under $1,000. Okay. With DaVinci Resolve, even the free software, it is a video editing software, but what I have found through YouTube tutorials and such, because such is my nature, it's how I've gotten here. It is the way, you know? This is the way. And it's just like, yeah, I know it's a video editing software, but all these amazing effects and stuff you can do to live video, guess what, bud? You can do it to a still image. Most of them were like, yeah, the only problem I had is I had to crop and resize somehow and put it out, but that is like the first free, like, here you go. Small investment, easy tutorial to figure out how to do your project and your idea how to do it. But my ace up my sleeve and what I've been fucking around with today. Have you checked out that AI thing I posted on Facebook?
Yeah, the generated images.
Dude, Canva is the fucking shit. This is essentially, if Canva, I keep this in the promo, wink, wink, sponsorship. I messed around with it all day. I've been sitting here all day messing with Canva, and that AI stuff, it was like crack. I was like, yeah, but you know what what about this idea? And just from a basic like cityscape, okay? And then I'll go up here, I'll go up here, I'll go up here. You zoom in a little bit, get a little bit of the details. Nothing really in depth, right? And then I just left it to the what is it? One of the magic tools. I think it's Magic Erase. And AI generated. The first one, Jill sent me a picture. It was like of a bouquet on like a blanket. And I was like, all right, well, let me check out Magic Erase. Oh, it picked up the bouquet perfectly. All right, let me check this out. And she has amazing flower arrangement. So it says, inspire me, right in that digital box you type in for the AI. So I'm like, okay. Chocolate dipped. I'm now interested. Generate. It generated those flowers were it's like you just picked them up, dipped them in chocolate, sprinkled a little white sugar in a couple places, set it on the same blanket. Just like the small edits I've been doing with a lot of the shots I did with the first extra shots I did at the first shoot, to where I got rid of a book stop and a picture with a bunch of people in it in like an interior shot that I got a bunch of really great edits on. And also the door. Dude, I got to send you the link to the door because it was an old style barn door and there were 2 windows and I was like, that's a good shot. I used the AI to remove, it was a little like light to, hey, this is our building on the side at night, right? For those times of the year. The other thing, I was like, hang on, what's this other thing it's telling me I can erase? It was me taking the picture. I was like, I did it twice. I was gone. I took both images on both of these screens and I was looking at them and I was like,
That's the one you sent me where it deleted you out of the
yeah, dude.
reflection.
I clicked on that thing I sent you and I clicked the arrows back and forth and I was like, it's like fucking magic. It's magic happening with that program. And that's where I was like, I took a cityscape, a shitty ass, sorry, Jill, shitty, horribly grained shot from a nighttime cell phone, low quality shot. Sorry, Jill. But, and I edited it out. I was like, Future City, it didn't get like forest or jungle, but it was like ruined city, Gotham. It understood Gotham. Steampunk, 100%. There are certain key words that when you get into it, and it's like, oh, okay, this is awesome. There's a lot of really, really awesome stuff that you can do. I had an image with Jill. She was holding a bouquet of flowers, and I deleted her arm, and it regenerated a little bit of the flowers and the background. And I'm like, I know. I think if you go back to like one of the first couple podcasts that we did together, I was very wary of AI.
Yeah. Oh, are you a fan now?
I'm not going to lie. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's
a great virtual assistant. What can we say?
But much like my brother likes to always remind me, if it doesn't know something, much like it's a very good creative tool if you keep it in check.
Yeah.
I have fun with like, all right, a shitty cityscape. Most of the stuff that I've been editing with the actual picture stuff is just let me be able to change this amount of contrast in the back to this amount of vibrance in the front and get the right shot that I want, which is great with the AI. And that's where it is a tool. So with the generated stuff, man, we're not there yet because like I did one thing. I was like, all right, Magic, whatever, give me purge hangers and wall hangers. You know what I got? Not that. Even when I defined it down to PJ, AND, WH in this text or whatever, this font, it was like Star Wars or Chinese kind of fonts. Like AI is not there. It's not going to take your jobs. Right now, if you embrace it, it can really make you look great. Or it can make you look like a sorcerer. Tied to the
You got to know how to manipulate it, though.
Dude, I mean, that's true too. because it is going off of your words, and those key words and stuff are very much. They're very. Is that
Still,
a polar bear with
yeah, if you
armor?
put the right if you put the right prompt in though,
Is that through
it can
Canva?
get you close. Yeah, that's
Get
Canva
the
generated.
hell out of here! Wow, I
Yeah,
will add the
feel
image
free
in
to
there, guys, on this podcast.
feel
But
free to share that. That's not the only one too, because I was there's this really cool idea, this really cool mechanic of telling stories inside stories.
Mhm.
So my original Iron Jaguar character, his Bruce Wayne day job is running a video game studio, and within a video game studio, you can tell a multitude of stories. So as a writer, I'm like, well, if I ever get tired of telling Iron Jaguar superhero stories, I could always just use my character to tell other stories that maybe he wants to tell. And so I thought about this fantasy that lives inside this VR game. So I was using Canva to generate pictures on
okay.
different types of characters that you would see inside of whatever that he was coming up with. And also D&D inspired.
No way, really.
Yeah.
But I love those two images. I'll add them both in there because with the right instruction to the right AI, you can, like there's, my brother was just mentioning, there's an AI Duncan Trussell uses, to where it's an audio AI.
Yeah, you just type in a few parameters. I want a country song.
Yeah, type in the parameters like I want a country song about Superman in Johnny Cash style, and it'll pop it out there. But you own the rights. Unlike one of the biggest things,
Adobe.
the biggest bombs that I heard, and my friend Evelyn popped this on Facebook, but this article about Adobe, how they own 100% of what you do on their program.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big bold move. It's more of like, we have the money to go to court and you might not, so we're just going to take your rights. To my understanding, though, that's only limited to if you use their cloud as a server storage.
Here's the thing, because Chris was telling me we're obviously very thrifty here at Perjangers and Wall Hangers, especially going more into the photography and videography, as well as the media network here. The production side, we do look at free software. And one of the things is Photoshop is very, very much a crucial tool. It's, been like that forever. So Chris was saying, oh, there's this thing. It's Photoshop Express. It's free. Free. Oh, my God. Even a watered down Photoshop surely will be helpful.
Yeah.
But guess what you need to activate that free copy of Photoshop Express? Adobe Cloud, that's right. $5 a month, and we own everything you create on here. Thanks. Who needs AI? We have all you schmucks. It's like, dude, there's other ways. That's why I want to start this off by talking about Canva and how amazing that is, because I haven't seen anything but good news and reviews about Canva. I've looked into it.
If I'm not mistaken, I think they've acquired Affinity, which is the competitor, the UK competitor to Adobe. I have Affinity that's related to, or you can compare it to Adobe Illustrator. I haven't figured it out yet, but I love it because you pay one time $55 and it's yours for life. No subscriptions or anything. What happened to that shit?
Yeah. Where did that go? I didn't say I didn't like that. You said I didn't like that. You said I'll like this. I like mac and cheese. Yeah, but you're really going to like this broccoli over here. We got this vegan dishes over here.
$4.99. For $4.99, we'll add flavor enhancers to it so it tastes like even better mac and cheese.
How about mac and cheese and ranch? You want Imagine if you're going to Wawa and they're like, yeah, if you want mac and cheese and ranch, that's like $1. That's like $4.99 a month extra.
It's not the products that have changed though, it's the business ideology. Back in the day it was like everybody was starting a business to not just be their own boss, but to create something that other people could use and to be a boon to other people.
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, well we've been doing this thing for way too long and I've got nothing to show for it in my life, and so everybody thinks they have an ego now, and it's all ulterior motives. So like, so they use data because we're very much in a data war, and they use that to track people's spending habits, which this is partially everybody else's fault.
Yeah.
They find out how much people are willing to spend, and they'll go to the table with a subscription fee, and that's why you see this all across the board. Tech, gaming, finance, everything is on a subscription pay. Because they know they can push you.
They'll still go to a car
level.
dealership or a mechanic shop and say, hey, don't try to nickel and dime me. But they're listening to Netflix and fucking Amazon and Disney Plus, and they're like, yeah, but we're going to need an extra $2. You're like, all right, well, my kids use this.
Yeah, service industry has picked this up. I can't remember the name of it. I think it's Ball and Joint Heat and Air. Locally, if you pay $39.99 a month all year long, they'll come do like free maintenance, like Freon. Fill up your Freon, make sure there's no leaks or anything. Something that you would have to pay like $100.
Yeah.
For them to come out and look at. They'll do for free throughout the year.
So you could say, hey, come check my tires, come check my oil, check my AC.
Right, I'm sure there's auto places out there like, yeah, for $59.99, you just come in, we'll top you off on fluids, and we'll fill your air up, and we'll check your air filter, and might even give you a quart of oil.
I'm not gonna lie,
people
bro.
will pay for the convenience.
I'm not gonna lie, dog. I might edit this out because I may try to shop that. That's a great idea.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Though.
That's a great idea. From my marketing side, I'm like, there's a little bell going off there. Like, it's smart.
And it sucks, and everybody hates it. But that's because
it's the
on the spiritual side,
benefit first cost. To where that is a steal. In a year, you could just say, hey, you know what? Come check out my AC in the summer. Hey, can you fill up my tires? Simple air can, compressed air. Boop, boop. You know what I mean? There's different technological ways that you can make that
shift,
viable.
Though. That's the corporate shift, though. The corporate shift sees people depending on them a lot more. So they feel as though they're entitled to a lot more.
Is it also a bit of branding as well? Because when you buy Walmart, you're like, well, it's Walmart. When you buy, Lord and Taylor, you're like, oh, well, this is Lord and Taylor. Oh, this is Tommy Hilfiger.
Oh, I'm sure it is, man.
This is Under Armour. You know what I mean? Product placement.
So, like at Circle K, I just learned this the other day because I was talking to a vendor at Clark's in early morning to stock his shelves. Arizona tea. They don't serve it at Circle K because Circle K wants to put their logo on everything they sell. Which is crazy because as a B2B and distribution and store shelf for retail wholesale, the retailers buy the space in the store to sell their shit. And that's why like Coke's got a fridge in the front of your gas station. They paid for that spot. So for them to put their ego on all the products that aren't theirs, they didn't pay for the engineering of it. They didn't pay for the branding, the marketing, the formula, the distribution, the bottle. They didn't pay for none of that, but they're gonna sell it. They want people to know it came from Circle K. So absolutely, it's like getting new cattle and.
Oh yeah, I got that. You got to brand it.
Putting a hot press on their ass so they know they belong to this ranch.
Yeah,
and everybody wants a piece of that. That's what Adobe's doing. Want a piece of that too. Ubisoft CEO said the same thing. People just buy digital copies and shut the fuck up and like.
Here's the thing though. Nobody reads the terms and conditions. When's the last time?
Mark.
Did you? when was the last time you did? I know. I can guarantee you for a fact, I have never read those terms and conditions. I just assumed all those people ahead of me that went to that platform read them. And guess what? They didn't either.
It's a double-edged sword, man. It's the same problem we have in politics. read a 589-page bill to find out what kind of shit in there we don't like.
Hey, we got
just
this
read the
bill
Cliff
coming out
Notes.
next Tuesday. Here's a 500-page. Here's what we're going over. You're not
Yeah.
doing
Oh no,
that.
they gaslight you first. They're like, "We'll get it to you a week before we pass it. 3 days before they pass the bill. Here's 589 pages."
Yeah.
You hear people talk about that shit all the time. Senator Marjorie Taylor, Senator Green, everybody, Chuck Schumer.
Mhm.
They all bitch about it. They get those bills from both sides, bipartisans.
If that
and they're like,
happened in
3 fucking
anybody
days.
else's job,
Yeah.
they would bitch too.
Oh yeah, that's like slamming a publishing assistant with a copy of Lord of the Rings, and she's got to read it 24 hours before the biggest Lord of the Rings convention.
Oh, it's like the
UK.
biggest anniversary. They're gonna have all the original fucking people that could have there. They've reanimated with necromancy. They're like, we got him back. It's R.R. Tolkien.
Like they would have. They would have to hand someone a bag of drugs to stay up long enough to read that shit. I read the updates when they come out, but how much efficacy can we give the updates?
I just kind of want a J.R.R. Tolkien weekend at Bernie's. I think that would be really entertaining.
That would be very scary because J.R.R. Tolkien never shied away from the dangers. So
everyone loves how Michael Jackson looked in Thriller. Okay.
well, if it's the prancing pony experience you want,
Maybe there's another choice, but just
don't
for
go to bed.
for happenstance, just for the metaphor of the joke, I think it worked out okay. But-
Referencing our D&D podcast, we all know how you act at a bar. So
yeah. But man, it's really crazy how you and I go to all these different places. We also go off on different stuff we've seen on documentaries. Have you seen the Neanderthal documentary on Netflix? You're mute. You were mute.
That's the one that talks
There you go.
about the Neanderthals in the Middle East, right? In that cave that dude spent like 10 or 15 years digging into to find like the oldest Neanderthal.
No, this is a different one. This is a new one that came out. This one, it was essentially how they were surprised how they actually loved each other and had families. It's just
Oh yeah, okay. So like the
There's-
behavioral science on like Neanderthals.
the behavioral.
They weren't just like
the behavioral side of us, uncovering our ancestors, is something that really bothers me because they look at things like this and like, hey, guess what? Turns out Neanderthals loved each other. They had families. Hey, look at that. They weren't just brutes killing each other and eating each other like cannibals. Oh, look, they loved each other. They had little tribes in civilization. Yeah, no shit, motherfucker. They had houses.
yeah,
Okay.
even if they weren't Neanderthals, monkeys and Darwinism, monkeys have the same type of social structure. So
Yeah.
I mean, if it's not caves, it's in trees. If it's not trees, it's in caves. I think I know the one you're talking about. This is the one where they took like soil samples and they found like trace amounts of flowers.
Yep.
They figured out that they were actually
Oh
they
my
might
God.
have been placing flowers on burials. Like
They weren't just
intelligence
carnivores.
lives in the
They weren't carnivores. They ate vegetables. What?
Oh man. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
This is the one that also
You ever
talked
ate
about
an orange? You ever had an apple? I don't care how good a steak is. Sometimes a fucking apple is delicious.
So they discovered the Neanderthals in this cave, right? And then they figured out like maybe they were celebrating and burying their dead, which is a sign of like love and compassion, which is intellect, which points to a social structure. But also, there were like damage marks of like maybe not, or maybe like clashing tribes, but also like
Old
teeth marks and
age.
stuff on bones.
And the healing
Like,
from that. Yeah.
well, they were like cannibalism, but not in the way that we think about
Oh, yeah,
cannibalism. Like,
the fuck. They did have cannibalism. You're right, yeah.
but they did it as a way to show appreciation
If Gam
because
died,
food was so scarce.
look,
Yeah.
let's put it in a Projanger sense. So if Chris died of old age, the old man, Projanger's Wall
Go ahead,
Hangers, old
go on a
old
beef stew.
old
That's not
old
what I eat.
man. They're thinking for us to remember him and to truly
Right.
respect him and move on, we would have to eat
Right.
him. Do you want the ribs? Are you going like leg, arm? I mean,
Could you imagine a fucking Monster Hunter style like pull up on a stone slab and Dad's back there and he's got Gam on a kind of like, you want the foot, the toe, the backstrap? What you want, son? The buttocks?
dude, that
Nice
would
fat.
make fat
More fat,
shaming
less
a
fat.
whole separate thing. Do you realize that?
Oh my
You're like, look, you're getting up there
And
in
I
age.
eat your family member and you're like,
You're getting to that
lost weight.
age, man. I really need you to start taking care of yourself a little bit, and because consider how you're going to taste to me, okay? Just consider how.
Fuck.
Do you want to be gamey? Do you want to be gamey, or do you want to be delicious? Okay.
Oh man, we want you stringy.
I will make you into a sausage. Like, so fucking help me, okay? I'm gonna fucking dry you out like jerky.
I would rather be jerky. Honest, I don't.
Oh man,
That.
is that
I
crazy?
want you to get the max amount of protein.
Is that so crazy in a survivor culture though? Like, hey, we could be eating tomorrow,
No, it's
but
like a primitive.
let me
but like a
drag you
primitive
into this
species.
cave, and we're all gonna fucking nom on you.
We're so writing a fucking comic on that. No dialogue. No dialogue. Just
No,
a
like that
silent
one,
comic.
the one caveman, Primal on HBO
Primal,
Max.
Primal.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
god, dude.
Hand signs and action. That's it.
I have so much shit to edit out of this podcast until we make it happen.
Oh man,
That's the perfect
Conversation.
idea,
But on a-
though. Yeah.
But on an intellectual level, they experienced everything in the moment. They had no concept of time. They had no what we call IQ. They just had experience, sensory emotions, sensory memories. So for them,
Well, they
seeing
had
their loved
memory,
one
yes.
was
So,
a form of
sense of
compassion.
time, I would argue with you because there's no
Okay,
light
the
pollution.
sun and the moon.
There's no
you
light
know.
pollution, and you're at night. You have nothing to look at but the amazing backdrop of galaxies, stars, nebula, like everything, just so much more vibrant than we can see today from all the
Oh.
light pollution and
If,
everything.
if it was a time before the, 'cause there's accounts in all cultures across the world where the moon just kind of just showed up. So if it was like before that time, which the documentary doesn't address, then when it was dark, it was fucking dark. Like,
Oh yeah.
so when I say a sense of time, I'm like, us can sit here and think about shit that happened 4 years.
Mhm.
The only memories that and humans indigenous to that degree of intellect would have would be something traumatic or something extremely beautiful, like giving life or birth or
Stories
moment you
passed
fight.
down, which would be either traumatic or
Right.
meant to build you up, and that would be a basis
Talking
for
about, like,
all
they had
mythology.
they had no concept of like I can think about what my life is going to be 50 years from now because
Mhm.
they were in a fight or flight mode, survival instinct.
I don't know. I'm
All
not
they
gonna
were
wake
was
up
in
tomorrow.
the moment. Yeah, so they were kind of like on the same internal structure pattern as animals, like
Mhm.
they habits. Like you get up early in the morning. They didn't have a fucking time clock. They rose with the sun. They went out foraged for food all day, like animals do. They slept when they were tired. It's actually really fascinating.
It is fascinating, especially when you look at that ancient culture, because we've often talked about the Younger Dryas, but I mean, I just think once again it's ridiculous to look at like, all right, so modern human beings have been around for 200,000 years. It was only since the last 3 to 6,000 years that they actually got the shit together and started building stuff. Then they found Göbekli Tepe, and then they found another like 13 other sites that are even older than that. So that's where I'm
I think maybe somebody else got our shit together, because that's a if you were to look at the last 10 years versus the last 100, there's a expedited technological boom, and you're just like, where the fuck did that?
who's to
It's like, if
say
it
that
took these
didn't happen
motherfuckers-
before? Because we
True.
went through 1,000 years of a meteor shower. We went through the torrid meteor stream. So
Oh, they went through us.
What? Well, yeah, but what would be left of our civilization if we went through 1,000 years of bombardment and then epic freeze?
I mean, it's a shame they didn't have video cameras. A really long episode of Cloverfield inside those caves underground.
The Illuminati has those texts. They have those ancient tomes. But it's just that thing of you don't know what actually happened back then. Like I went through a book on it was the history of ancient Egypt. It was so fascinating because the one thing,
What a hole.
two things that I found really awesome about ancient Egypt, and it's not what you're going to think. The first one is artistically, they got to a point and they were like, good enough. For the entirety of the history of ancient Egypt, they just got to a certain point of creativity with their stuff, and they're like, yeah, we'll just copy it off of that. Yeah, that's good enough. We don't need to. Yeah. They weren't like Greeks with the mosaics and stuff like that. We got our stuff. That's Egypt. The other thing is that they never recorded a defeat in battle. They just recorded that their victories got closer and closer and closer to home.
They were humble enough to be like, yeah, this is good, but they were also manipulative enough to be like, well, let's just tell nobody we lost it.
So how closely are you really going to trust that person? The reason why hieroglyphics went extinct was because it was the priest, it was the high class that could read and write. The lower class couldn't read and write. Towards the end, they had that middle between of the this isn't hieroglyphs, but it's kind of Greco-Egyptian writing they had. That was part of the Rosetta Stone. And it's just all of that's why the hieroglyphs went extinct, is because through all of this, it was a lot of, there were like two really big, they call it intermediate periods. That's pretty much just like, we don't know what the fuck happened here. Bunch of kings, bunch of shit. Who knows? So you have all these questions, but they're like, nah, we know exactly what happened.
Yeah, Egypt was a pretty fun period.
Overconfidence, because when you're looking at ancient times, who knows what actually happened? Now, they could be like, look, I'm going to be extremely modest at the good stuff that I do. I'm just not going to mention any of the bad stuff. I sold cocaine out of a fucking Pinto. It's okay. I'm not going to mention it. I was a pharaoh. I'm a god on earth. Pharaohs don't sell drugs. It was a chariot Pinto.
It was a chariot Pinto. When you dress like me, it's medicine. You do it, it's illegal.
Like, there's so many,
my god, that sounds so familiar.
There's just so many fake things about their culture. Like, if you were a pharaoh, you weren't wearing your own hair. Like, there were a bunch of pharaohs that I was listening in that book. They were like, yeah, actually, their hair color is this. There was one pharaoh that they just completely excluded because she was a woman and she just proclaimed herself king. She's like, yeah, guess what? I'm not she, I'm him. They were like, We're gonna erase her from history.
About Iris, Cleopatra, or Nefertiti?
No, it wasn't Nefertiti. It started with an N, but I can't remember her because they erased her from history. But no, she was. It'll come to me after we do this, after we end this podcast. But no, she was a queen, and she is listed as a queen. But as soon as she listed herself as king, afterwards they were like, mm-mm. Just like, do you know where monotheism came from? Historically, from what they say, Egypt. There was a pharaoh that said, "You know what? There's only one God." I mean, he didn't last long, but he had, he had an advisor, son. You may know his son, Tutankhamun, as they say. But yeah, King Tut. His grandfather created monotheism. So that's why nobody knew about King Tut. They wanted to erase this motherfucker. After King Tut, they were like, guess what? The polytheism's back! And it was partying off as always. But King Tut's grandfather was like, well, I got to tell you guys, there's only one God. And they went about it. And they were like, Pharaoh says. And that's where monotheism came from.
I'm probably going to butcher. That's Hepsu.
Yes.
The name.
Yes, she was the
Created
queen
a male version of herself.
Yes, she was the queen turned king. And they were like, no, we're just going to.
Eritrea. That's interesting.
The other reason why you shouldn't trust her history is, you know who the biggest grave robbers of the Egyptian tombs were? Egyptians. Ancient Egyptians. Ancient Egyptians. They robbed their own shit. Like, hey, we need gold. Go get it.
Oh, yeah.
Go get it. It's over there.
I forgot.
They robbed their own shit all the time. And they had tourism.
Oh, the offerings to the gods.
They sent tourists to the tombs. They had capitalism. Cleopatra had fucking tourism to her own sites in her city and shit. You know what I mean? Modern.
I thought you were going to say the British.
But that's my thing. Humans, we're gonna do the same things. The patterns are there. It doesn't matter if we have technology or if we get a fucking earth-wide EMP. We're still gonna act like the same dumb, scared apes. Not to make this a fucking real nihilistic podcast, but it turned there.
I was gonna say you're clamoring towards fucking Darwinism versus conspiracy theory and alien.
I mean,
DNA manipulation. It's a fine pendulum side. So.
I can't wait. I can't wait for my first mainstream interview. I gotta tell you, I gotta tell myself all right, act normal. Act normal. This is not podcast. You are in radio voice. You are not in No, you're not in podcast mode. You're in normal people mode. That's me in that meme, looking at myself in the mirror. You are a normal person.
Lemon face, lion face.
Oh God! But you feel what I'm saying, though. People are by nature they're going to act the same. That person who is an angry bully as a kid. Guess what he doesn't get? Hearts.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's reasons, and you don't see that as a kid because you don't have the life experience, and some adults don't even have that life experience to realize someone's intentions behind their behavior. And it is a skill, but it's also something that I think it's not something that's new to humans. Sigmund Freud and Carl not Sagan. Who's the fucking Carl I'm thinking of? Carl Jung. Like these guys, they were brilliant in psychology and understanding the mind. They didn't invent it. Like there were like you listen to fucking Marcus Aurelius, listen to fucking all these ancient people and ancient writings. People were always trying to understand it and say, look, there's that one old guy. He's like, look, this is why he acted that way. So psychology and human behavior and understanding people, it's all like, I guess.
It's ancient philosophy, ideology. That's what that was the foundational birth of what eventually became. Why do people? It wasn't just the study of people; it was like the study of a group of people, including government and governmental bodies, like all that shit.
Yeah, his meditations is all fucking amazing, and it's free on Audible. I highly recommend people listen to Marcus Aurelius' meditations. It's a brilliant fucking book.
Yeah, they quote him still to this day.
It's just when I was listening to that, I'm listening to essentially, albeit translated, but I'm listening to this man's words from thousands of years ago. Brilliant,
Exhilarating, isn't it?
a brilliant man who was he was a strategist. He had to be a politician because he was a person in power. He had to please people, but he also had a deeper understanding of things that could better people around him. Yeah,
Yeah, it was,
there was that Rome thing because they had time to study themselves.
What else were they doing outside of conquering people? Like,
Well, we got on your schedule today. Well, I got conquering, and then next Tuesday. Next Tuesday, I got scheduled for finding myself, and then old Cerilius is gonna take a model of me the Thursday after that sculpture. Gonna do it nude.
we're just waiting on Saturnalia to happen. That's 30 days of shit I just don't want to talk about, but can't wait to do. That's basically the ancient redneck.
Yeah. I mean, you had the
We'll
Greeks
take
though.
your farm and we're gonna rape your women and we're gonna do all that other stuff.
But here's the thing,
And then we're gonna
because
make you worship.
they didn't have a mastery of they didn't know about bacteria and germs and like microbes and stuff. So they were huffing volcanic fumes, drinking ergot infused wine, and saying, "Look, I got to go visit this tipsy bitch at the top of this mountain if you want to go to war." So there wasn't all enlightenment. There's still a little bit of haziness in there, okay? Like anybody tripped, come on, man. You had that experience. Like, why did I tell him he should wear an umbrella as a hat? Now it's a
really,
billion-dollar industry. Okay, that was
you
right.
look at it through the lens of theology, it was really a conscious period. The conquering and stuff, like all that had to happen for us to get to the point of, well, let's use war of words propaganda instead of like physically doing shit, because we know what kind of violence and depravity that breeds. We're just gonna do it on a different scale. But regardless of how we've evolved as a species collectively, we always find a way to manipulate circumstances to circumvent the outcome. Regardless of what happened, whether it was closing a dam and taking over one piece of terrain and starving your enemy, or opening a dam to get the land, or using a laser beam to buy land in Hawaii.
Although
we've always found a way to circumvent circumstances to capitalize on opportunity.
How fucking brilliant is George R.R. Martin? Because he created a world of literally like humanity. Game of Thrones. Guess what? The meat grinder started at the beginning.
Yeah.
And it kept going, and now you're here.
Oh yeah, it's the modern day reflection of Lord of the Rings.
if he ever finishes that fucking book series, I swear to God, it probably will go down in history as one of the greatest literary things ever because it is brilliant if you listen to the fucking book. They are absolute masterpieces. And the shows are essentially like a master's class at how to half-ass your way through Hollywood.
Or in other words, the formula to success is 7 years in a cabin alone. It may not be for everybody, but it might be
But
for
here's
you.
the thing. How old was he when he started writing 44?
That's true.
He was to where Frank and I did Tales with Coleman Vaughn, and he's a writer, and he's just I have How to Draw Marvel and all this, but he's in his 20s. He's like but I haven't gotten it by now. And me and Frank were like, dog, you got time. You got time. I just made an alien backdrop out of a fucking shitty. Sorry, Joe. A shitty city photo. You can learn how to fucking draw.
If only I had that confidence before I went to fucking school. $7,000 in debt to learn how to write a story.
I've been thinking about the confidence thing, man. I've been really thinking about
that's a factor.
Because I've always traditionally seen myself as not having a lot of confidence, and it like that lack of confidence ruling my judgment, my decisions. But as I talk to people especially on the creative level, they just look at me, especially Jill. She looked at me. We were talking on the phone, and she goes, "I wish I had your confidence." Like, why? Fine. But it's my creative confidence because that's something like my mind palace and what comes out of that. It doesn't always come out, in fluent alphabetical language, but
mine comes out as a confused Rorschach. So
yes, sometimes it comes out messed up. But when you actually work it out, you play with the putty and they see the afterwards, they're like, "Oh my God, you're brilliant." I know. I was trying to tell you that.
They describe life as if they would describe life in school, public school, and even in private school for everybody really, as they do in art. Like all your shit is ugly. You mold it into the thing that it needs to be. Only then and then is it considered art. What actual art is the making.
Daddy,
and
are you calling me ugly?
Yeah. I mean, you're so ugly, it's beautiful, it hurts so bad.
You're so ugly, it's beautiful.
Because if you think about it,
you're one of a kind, sweetheart. You're one of a kind.
Yeah, life, like my kids didn't look like life when they started. They were like microscopic. I mean, my sons and my daughters, they were all like little white heads, big fat white tails. Didn't look like that when they came out.
Sorry you're going there. Okay.
Programmed intelligence finding a place to set up shop and become intelligent.
Like the Matrix?
They didn't know they were going to have those faces.
You set your sentinels in there?
Imagine a Family Guy version of Stewie just inside of a little spermobile, like punching a hole through life, It's the making of, man. That's the process of life. We're all here to experience. I didn't know I was going to look like an Amish baker when I grew this fucking beard, but that's what someone told me I looked like.
If you would have known, then you could have planned accordingly in life.
Right. And what
Son,
experience
what are you going to do with your life?
Control?
Mom, I'm meant to look like an Amish baker. I'm going into bakery. I'm becoming Amish. Okay.
It's like being born with a Gameshark. What's the point of living if you have all the codes?
Title of the podcast. That's a great fucking quote. It's like a game shark.
Yes, kids, that's exactly how fucking old we are. Shark, look it up.
Man, Game Shark was
Google will let you see it.
Shit. Cheat codes were They were so important. You didn't have the
And
internet.
I got that on Legend of Dragoon, bro. Fucking level 9,999.
Everyone
Oh,
remembers the Konami code.
I remember lots of. I remember I abused the shit out of it. So bad.
Cheat codes were really big, especially with Grand Theft Auto 3. Grand
Oh my
Theft Auto
god, yeah.
3, infinite
Infinite
guns.
ammo,
Oh my god!
infinite
And
tank
then
drop in.
with Vice City, you could get the different gun
Oh, yeah.
sets, and you
Yeah.
had the different cheat codes for whatever. I'm going into this mission. I'll get this.
Oh man,
I'll have
infinite
these.
life on 5 stars. What a rush! They could blow you to hell, and you'd be like, "What?"
It was
Still be
that.
alive.
It was that moment of gaming that, like, I think everybody should have when they're young, of being able to go into a world and do whatever the hell you want without any repercussions. Especially when you're young, because when you're young, you're always getting told what to do because you should. You're always getting yelled at your parents because you should. You should be testing your boundaries. You're always getting corrected. But there's that ability to be yourself and expand in the video game digital world that we got to experience, especially as the graphics started getting better. And now we're getting into the world of VR and AR, and who knows if those anime to where people pop on a little fucking visor and all of a sudden they can just eat a fucking apple pie with somebody in China before they go slay a dragon.
I think it's emerging in the conversation from that in the future because it's a different experience. It's an expanded consciousness, a place where you could not only upgrade but also become something different. A life that you only get one of. Who wouldn't be tempted by an experience where you could live multiple lives? In AR, VR, you have the opportunity to feel what it's like. Like this goes back to Ready Player One, right? With like the suits that like give you the actual neurological feeling of pain.
Yes.
Even a cup for your like getting hit in the balls, like could feel like you got hit in the balls. A pleasure experience. I think the sex industry is going to hit hard faster.
Visit a fucking hooker or a strip club. I was about to say you're gonna log into that every night. Like, honey, I got a meeting. I gotta hop online.
Well, see, it's crazy because you think about movies like Love. That was that guy from Bumper who was dating a phone on an app that he created, and she goes crazy. And
what about that fucking Black Mirror episode, to where both the best friends go online and
oh yeah, and they one's female, one's male. They end up finding out they've been having sex with each other.
You know what I mean? I'm like,
yeah,
that's gonna happen. You're like, oh my god,
well,
my teammate and I were having so much fun, and then all of a sudden you find out you're fucking your sister. Digitally,
yeah, it's like the
digitally, it's fine. It's just digital. But you're wearing a suit to where you can feel it, so it's still dirty. You should still talk to a priest. And
those are the things that are going to have to happen one day. You have to have conversations. Once you cross that barrier of empathy and projection, it gets a little moral and ethically inclined. We're like, someone's going to have to step in and be like, okay, so this is kind of the same thing in real life.
Now with your imagination, I want you to picture on C-SPAN, people that we elect talking about said legislation on this technology and how they would be scared of people getting overstimulated in the digital universe by the digital demons, and how the whole propaganda monster that would pop up behind that, and how I imagine religion would pop up in there and make you feel like it's dirty.
I mean, they actually talk about this in the Bible. So
digital selves?
This is
God, they were forward-thinking.
Oh man, so forward-thinking.
Holy shit!
I mean, and you really got to read the books that they don't put in the King James version.
When digital, when your digital self encounters your digital sister, thou shalt not fuck her. Not in those words, I'm
Okay,
assuming.
the basic way that I can explain this is that anything that you were to code that runs at the same time that the operating system of anything runs, what they call a mirror code,
Mhm.
is what they refer to as a demon. A parasite could be, an infection could be a demon because it's
That
against
checks
your
out.
immune system.
Okay.
Your body is the living consciousness of Christ aligned with all these superficial things, and you
Because
really
we were
wouldn't know
made
that until you
in,
got
God's image and all that. Okay. All right.
right. And if you
That
get
checks
into like
out.
geometric gematria and stuff, once you put all that shit together, you start to think like, oh, okay, so that's what VR and AR is right now. It is
So,
a mirror code. So anything that happens in those worlds aren't actually
oh,
happening. It's robbing you of the conscious experience of in the now. It's taking you places to before, and that in itself is a temptation, which they describe in the Bible as the demon. Anything that
okay.
tempts you from the living now.
I
It
see.
alters your spirit and your conscience.
So you're saying religion would be very much, at least the hardcore aspects, we'll say, to be safe on the internet. They would be more inclined to be against this overall digital universe.
Let's just put it this way: I would not trust a preacher or a priest if they played video.
Hmm. What video?
That's completely hypocrisy.
If
'Cause I
it's
play video
Dance
games.
Dance Revolution, I'm questioning any guy. All right? I don't care if he's a priest. I don't care if he's a fucking senator. Obama gets a pass. He can play Dance Dance Revolution as much as his heart's content and his physicians say he's allowed. Biden's not going to do it. What? I had to pick one.
He would he would forget what's left and right.
Could you imagine
let's just
Biden trying to play Dance Dance Revolution?
He would need handlebars.
Hey, little girl, how are you? Hit the up button. I'm standing up.
God, we're getting assassinated. You're gonna have to edit that out.
Look, what if I get hired by the Biden campaign? Hear me
funny.
out. They're looking for YouTube and videographers.
Someone at NSA just picked this up. They're watching right now. Like,
Look, I just want to say, I'm just not looking for that kind of challenge, all right? To make... If you have a Tales of the Crypt that you want me to do, I'd be more inclined to do that than the former. Because, horror is so much easier to write.
right.
Ooh,
Well, I mean, it's
I know that
basically-
red dot's gone. I'm safe.
well, horror is the genre because it's the easiest primal thing to capitalize on emotionally. Fear is the thing that creates fight or flight. Puts people in a space of mind.
I have heard that. I was like, that's like the intro level for writers and just even creators is horror, because horror is the easiest. Now,
Yeah.
I don't, maybe it's me, but when I'm looking at something like I want to take a picture, even if I have like a story in mind for the shot, it just, it comes to me. It's not something that, I have to really pontificate on. Unless I really want to be deep in the story of what I want to say. But I always kind of felt like that intro level of photography is kind of like horror. Like, hey, dip your toes in. This is a rock and water and streams and stuff,
I like the manipulation of like reflections and light and yeah, kind of. Because all that stuff is used in horror to set a tone, right? Horror is all about the environment, sets a tone. It invites you to feel comfortable and then scares the shit out of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
and that's
come
what,
into our pizza parlor, and then it turns into Five Nights at Freddy's. Like,
yeah, exactly. I also want to point out that, you mentioned, shiny stuff, but diamonds aren't shiny. They reflect. So Rihanna's wrong.
They were.
Rihanna's just flat out wrong.
She knows nothing about refractalization.
I was just a shine bright like a diamond. It's been stuck in my head for fucking years, and it's not right. It doesn't shine,
It glints, bitch. Get it right. It glints.
especially
It
in the
glints.
dark. It's reflecting.
Yeah,
It's not shining. If a diamond was shiny, it would be so much more expensive. Like if that thing was emitting light, holy fuck! Do you know how much
And
you would
they're-
be spending for like a fucking little chip?
And as soon as they were publicly actually start selling the market, there's I can't remember if it was in China or if it was in Russia, but they have successfully generated printed diamond.
All right, good for them, man. I mean,
Yeah, can you imagine? Because I remember watching a TV show that had like the basis of, well, we can just make diamonds now. I'm like, oh, you could just recreate something that takes like 100 to 1,000 years. That's so cool.
well, it's
And like their
precious.
lives were at risk because of it.
Like, what's the old time? Like, what's the old joke? I swear to God, if you would stick a lump of coal up that bitch's ass in a week, you'd get a diamond. So with enough pressure, you will get a diamond. So science and math says, we can do that. I got you.
Yeah, like
Hey, you think
It
you
was
can
the
make a
stuff.
diamond? Yeah.
it was a nice size too. It was like a hand size. Hold it in your hand.
Diamond
They
butt
put the
plugs
material
coming
in the
soon.
sheet at a very affordable price, might I add.
The
Very
fucking
affordable
internet has really ruined my mind because there's a picture of this woman riding a bike and it had like a LED butt plug. It was so wrong.
Fuck out of here.
She was
Oh,
following safety protocol for riding a bike at night, all right? I'm giving her an A for creative, just creativeness. You
That
are
was her way
letting
of
people
protest.
know you're kinky and you're safe.
Said I had to be a light. They didn't say where I could put it. It's against the
Reflector.
machine.
There's the light. So many legal loopholes.
If you wanted, then you should have put a butt plug in it.
Look, you can
Flashlight.
ride my bike. Like, hey man, I gotta get here. Can I borrow your bike? Look, I have to warn you. There's a condition. You know how there has to be like a blinking light? Yeah. You got one, right? It's an accessory. You're probably gonna want to ask for somebody else's bike, dude. You're the closest person. Just tell me. I gotta get. Just let me your bike. Give me whatever the reflector is. I'll be okay. And then he hands you a butt plug. So do you like hold it behind, or you got like a strap? Like no, there's no strap. Do you need help installing it? You're like,
God.
how would I need help? Like, all right, drop your pants. Excuse me? I'll walk. I'm now walking. A brisk walk.
Oh, it's okay.
To be polite at first. It's a brisk walk, and then it turns into a run.
Like, only if they pursue you.
And then all of a sudden, you're there. And,
Meaning to the
and scarred by the butt plug. God, we've gone everywhere. We have gone fucking everywhere,
man.
like we
That
always
sounds
do.
like a really funny story, man.
This is almost
That'd be a funny short film.
this is a different podcast in and of itself. This is the Anywhere and Everywhere All at Once podcast.
Anywhere and everywhere.
Because that's where we go. We go anywhere and
Far,
everywhere.
far
man.
away. Galaxies and conversations far beyond what you expected to be on podcasts.
It challenges me for the title because I make it attractive. Like, ooh, what's this? And then by the end of it, they're like, what the fuck did I just listen to?
Just put on there, were you born with a Gameshark? Be born with a Gameshark now? Could be like Gameshark 4.0? It's gaslight 'em. You don't need Neuralink. You can now be born with a Gameshark.
Oh, man, that's the next one.
See,
Our
that's
next,
the thing they're talking about though.
that's the
Like
next topic,
Neuralink
man.
technology,
Neuralink.
nanotechnology,
How are we
nanotechnology
gonna
in
be
general.
cyborgs, and how fast can I be one?
They think they feel as though they're confident that if this stuff in a generation actually have biological life form, it's technology, and based on studies, y'all could go look at the Joe Rogan podcast. I forgot the guest he was talking to when he talked about this, but they've done it in like insects.
Mhm.
Like they grew larvae, and this moth expanded, and it had the Neuralink technology in.
No fucking way.
Yeah.
I've been listening to
So
Star Wars books. I've been listening to Rogan recently. That's
they
fucking crazy.
they feel as though they're confident and cocky enough, I might add, that life and technology can be one and the same biologically,
That's
which would
wild.
put us on a whole fucking different
That
level because you're
that
talking
brings
about
it to
like
his like biological technological cocoon idea.
you're talking about neurons and uh um that process neural pathways interacting biologically. So we're talking about like comic book cyborg
Dude, talking
where
about
he can
comic
think
book,
something.
the Neuralink is crazy. We talk about comic book. You
Yeah.
take Iron Man, Terrence Howard, and you put him on Joe Rogan.
Oh.
What are your thoughts? Because Nikola Tesla said, when you look at the universe, it's frequencies, and his whole thing about the periodic table and linking it to frequencies and shit. I'm listening to it, man. I was on the way to a wrestling event. I was like, I don't know how crazy it sounds to people, but kind of makes sense.
That whole 3 hour and 30 interview, Terrence Howard really is.
And people are
yeah,
going to try to make
life
him out to be crazy, but crazy and
Of course they
genius is a very thin line away from each other.
It's frequency. Like, who's to say when people die, their frequency,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just living on a different plane. A plane is in like as easy, and this is how I know that it has some validity. Go to your radio, turn a knob. 107 point what? 105 point what?
Mm-hmm.
Those are all frequency of radio wave. What the fuck is light if it's not a wave? A wave of what?
Well, light's a wave,
I mean, on a
sound's a
scientific
wave.
lab,
I mean, if you're
right?
gonna,
It's
does it just stop at that? Like, okay, well, light's a wave, yes, and sound's a wave, but
Yeah.
that's it.
But all that stuff creates our reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why they say like nothing is real, everything is generated. Cortex of our eyes up into our brains. Consciousness interacts with light, which is what creates everything around us as a solid. Because if you think about it, the concept of my fingers doing this, my atoms aren't touching because they are there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not touching anything. Grab something, you're not touching anything. Even
Isn't-
though they call it feeling.
Isn't that the old?
That's why we have neurons.
The old once the kid learns that, like, what? I'm not touching you. No, I'm not touching you. Atoms can't touch. No, I'm not touching you.
Yeah. Who's
Keep
to say
your
though
atoms
that's
further apart?
Who's to say that's not like the actual like process acting itself out through consciousness?
That's very true. That's very true.
It's not like a kid doing dumb shit like we all perceive it based on bias through years of evolution. It's like real life acting itself out through. That's just what it looks like, filtered through consciousness.
The more
Just
that
filtered
I look
through the
at,
light and the sound.
well, the more that I look at any of these topics, and I just realize that all these people who are the supposed best of the best, and they're asked, questions and stuff. They're like, we really don't know anything. But everybody is willing to crucify the weatherman when he says it's not going to fucking snow. Meanwhile, your scientist is like, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Oh, I'll figure it. We'll study it. Maybe. Oh.
Is it going to rain today? 60% chance, maybe. That coming from a sheet? Nah, I'm spitballing it.
Like, when you look at it at that point, like, they're looking into it. They're not holding out fucking crystals. It's, an approximation. And everyone's like, you see this shit?
I mean, Well, I mean, they shouldn't be mad at the weather, man. They should be mad at the military for militarizing weather and fucking up weather patterns, which is happening all over the
There's
world.
probably a lot of things that are fucking up with the weather, but I don't think it's one in particular.
Oh no, it's everything is never okay. The world in which we live on one thing affected this whole thing, and that was the problem. That's gone and has been for thousands of years. It's always an amalgamation of issues that create one big issue.
Yeah.
It's like obesity. It's not just people loving food. It's the chemicals they put in food. It's the politicians who don't regulate it. It's the politicians who created the FDA to regulate it, who don't listen and enforce it. It's the companies who don't give a shit about the ethics and the morality of it and just shove shit in there. Who kills themselves over a fucking chicken sandwich? Well, it's not a chicken sandwich. It's a dope sandwich. Fucking chemicals that go into Chick-fil-A sandwich, and they shouldn't be killing each other over. Like that's an obesity issue, but that's also like an addiction issue. It's also a regulation issue, which is a political issue, which is a societal structure issue, which goes into like
I'm going to stop you there because it sounds to me like you're trying to help people, okay? And yeah, you could help people, or hear me out. You could make money. I was going to make an Epstein joke, but I was like, nah, don't go there. Don't go there.
We'll hang that one up for later. I mean,
fucking love that.
We'll put that in the folder.
Set.
Fuck, that's not any better.
Spike. God damn, that was great. I've missed podcasting so much. Oh fuck. But I have to get your take. Well, I want to ask you first. Have you watched the most recent episode of The Acolyte that the internet's freaking out about, or any of The Acolyte?
I have not. I haven't had time.
All right.
I watched the first two.
So here's the thing. How do you feel about lesbian space witches? They're not Night Sisters. Separate thing. Don't be a fucking bigot, okay? They're just lesbian space sisters. And the internet has a problem with that. As well as another plot point, but essentially, the third episode is let's set up the backstory. The first two episodes have been talking about what happened. Oh, this happened. This is why I want to kill you. So they show, hey,
lazy twins narrative.
Yeah, a section, a perspective rather, of what happened back then, and it revealed, hey, you're in a cult of lesbian space witches. It's not a bad thing. Look, and this is the thing. George Lucas recently came, I think he was received an award, and he rehashed his statements on Star Wars, and then a lot of people don't understand it because he said nobody understands the Force like him. I mean, go figure. He created it, so that's not a big surprise. But when people, when people told him, people said to him like, "Well, those original films are all white men." He said 80% of them are aliens. The film is about accepting somebody, and Star Wars in general, it's about accepting that person for who they are, not what they look like. Otherwise, you wouldn't have got the Mon Calamari as a hero and one of the rebellion. Like these people who are just attached at the fucking hip at this wokeism bullshit, and then they claim to just, oh no, that's this. It's fucking ridiculous. First off, it's make pretend and it's make believe, and it's made to inspire you. And oh yeah, by the way, it's for the fucking 12-year-old and your inner 12-year-old. It's not meant to be your Bible. It's meant to be entertained and enjoyed.
See, that's a byproduct.
Much like anime. You get those characters who are like, they're overly inspiring, they're shit on, they're kicked on, and they're overly positive. You get that out of both of these properties. And you have to take the creative expression for what it is.
That's a byproduct, though. That's a byproduct of the marketing. about that. Well, instead of just marketing to every generation of children, why don't we grow a generation of children? And now you have across the contaminated entertainment field of adult slash child entertainment. Adults grew up with this shit, feel as though they're entitled to an opinion. The entertainers make it appealing to adults, but fall back on the excuse of, well, it's just for children, so shut the fuck up. But at the same time, I mean, they're capitalizing on the profits from it, right? Hulu's now open up on Disney Plus, so your child can watch Criminal Investigations and fucking Inside Out all in the same night. It's so great. They
And we
can
may get The
watch
Rock.
them all.
That's the new news. We are even closer to getting The Rock as Apocalypse
Fuck that guy,
in X-Men because
Apocalypse.
he
Have
signed.
you heard of him getting the role for Popeye?
He signed a fucking deal with Disney. Well, his manager signed a deal for him with Disney, and that's where fans are like, "We're getting Apocalypse." Which, dude, I love him as casting for Apocalypse.
And then the only reason he's getting the role because he's got a fat bottom lip. That's it.
I don't care. Jason
Jason Momoa would have been.
Ooh.
Jason Momoa could have done the role.
You'd have to do
that's
something with the hair.
the issue. That's the issue, though, and I disagree. Star Wars was about a boy, it was about a pair of kids, and it was about the one in the Force. You can make the claim that Star Wars was about accepting people, but in a galaxy far, far fucking away, 1,000 years into the future, where we're actually flying around space and chilling with other aliens, that concept of racism and discrimination, while it may exist interracially, has been obliterated on a generalized scale. So we're like little stupid humans thinking about space through little stupid lenses, making big things out of small issues.
That is such a good point. You can't put our viewpoint of racism on Star Wars. You're talking about people who talk to green sludge.
Yeah. I mean, that's like saying I
androids.
watched Orville. That's like saying that Yalfit having a crush on the Doctor in Orville was woke.
Yeah.
He was just he was a gelatin life form. I mean, they even have that scene where like the Doctor is taken over, or like I think taken over by this pheromone that was like the fallout or the antithesis.
Dude, those
Captain
first,
Mercer's
I
relationship.
loved that episode because Norm Macdonald, rest in fucking peace of that comedic genius. He made that fucking character for me. I loved that character in the Orville.
Oh, Yalfit? Yeah.
Oh, he was the
that
best.
dude was bald.
He was dope.
That was a good character. But I mean, like that was like one of the first times in recent history that they showed like an alien having sex with a human. If you discount the fucking sci-fi flick on Netflix, that weird alien thing, that dude. That was
what
weird.
about Species?
But like,
Species was
like
about an alien like literally fucking humans and killing them.
You know what? Yeah, I would constitute that as like the next evolution of inner what do they call that when a black person?
You know what?
has a relationship?
Interracial. But you know what? You know how people are always saying death by snooze too? Like, have you watched Species?
Yeah. I mean, that's true. And that's dude. This takes me back to a post.
That's death by snooze right there.
There's a post that happened 2 days ago in an AI group. Someone posted like, what is Ahsoka? What's her alien race? What are they called? You know what I'm talking about, though, right?
No, I was just listening. It starts with a T.
Goku or
Tandoshan?
I can't remember.
Tangoshan?
Oh, Tendoshi.
Tandoshan. Yeah,
Tandoshan?
there you go. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so the Tendoshan, and someone posted a couple of Tendoshans. Okay, they're like half naked, so top up naked, and the post said, "No, you would?" Question mark. Everybody's like, yeah, hell yeah, yeah. Who wouldn't? Blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, how do we know they don't have like space STD? Like, if we crossbred with an intergalactic race of
What if they
aliens,
have
who's to say
barbs?
that- yeah, like
dogs.
Teeth, the movie Teeth.
Like dogs. Their penises, like, they have barbs.
Yeah.
They get stuck in there. They physically get stuck.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Or like, what if a female
You
alien
want that
species?
big 10-inch now? Like, oh, I gotta warn you about the barbs. Excuse me?
What if a female alien species has what appears to be a vagina, but it grows into and out comes a little tendril thing, and it goes up inside you, and she or they lay eggs. That's their like reproductive process. You know, like we wouldn't know. So I said to be determined based on some tests and some experiments, because I'm not getting space AIDS.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the nightmares. Thank you for the nightmares of getting alien eggs laid in me. Like, I'd love to have sex with you. Like, yeah, baby, you're sexy. Licking on a titty, and all of a sudden, a tentacle goes up your ass and lays eggs. Whoa!
So that's a conversation that was born aliens, primitive aliens look at anybody physically inferior or who lack the ability to protect themselves as food. So we would be a source of food for them to lay eggs. So they were like these humanoid creatures, but with spider-like tendencies. And if you're a spider in most cases and you're the male, they fuck you, they lay eggs, and you die when they hatch and that's just their law of nature. That's just biologically, that's their process. So who's to say intergalactic species, even intellectually, wouldn't have something similar?
And you're just being prejudiced if you don't respect their boundaries.
That's the entire statement of Star Trek, though. As entertaining as it is, and as a counterculture as it is the antithesis of the conversation of what happens when we encounter a species. Because that whole show was based on a federation who was the front line of political and galactic interracial accords with
they weren't shying away from anything interracial. You know, when you look at the original, you had Uhura and Spock, and you also had on Voyager, you had the Klingon, and you also had Dax and Worf on Deep Space Nine. There's always been an interracial between aliens, even at that level. And that's the message of it. You know, don't be scared if the vagina has teeth.
You obviously haven't watched that horror movie called Teeth.
Just go for the old alien. Then that's what we call a gummy.
Yeah, because when they get older, they lose their teeth, right?
I saw that joke hit you. You're like, oh my god!
I was thinking about the alien gummy bears that you run into in that Rick and Morty spin-off video game, and how wrong it would be if you were to interracially have relations with one of them. Would it be wrong to have like interrelations?
Yeah, it'd be wrong
with an intellectual.
With an intellectual gummy bear? I mean, if that's your thing, I'm not going to judge you. Like, hey, this is my friend Mike and his new wife, the alien gummy bear. Do you,
man, if it feels
do you prefer
good,
to be
you
called
also
gummy
have
bear? I don't want to, piss you off. You know, I know how you gummy bears get, just bouncing here and there and everywhere.
So would it be discrimination if you were like, I don't want to date the red one? Can I have your yellow sister?
Yeah. No, that would be very much racist. You have to accept the whole color spectrum of gummy bears. You can't just pick one flavor. Like, yeah, but I'm sorry, I only date red ones.
See, but that's a good conversation to have to break the ice when it comes to talking about these topics, to show how wrong and hypocritical some of this shit is. Because we're looking at this shit from an old evolutionary viewpoint. Okay, stupid humans thinking about stupid things from a stupid small spectrum, not a wide visual.
You know, I wasn't going to date her because she was a red gummy bear, and I was really looking for green, but...
I like strawberries. I like,
I opened myself up after some introspection, and I really feel like I accepted her because she accepted me when I couldn't accept myself. And these are our gummy babies. And they're like half human, half gummy babies. They look like something out of Rick and Morty. And like, oh my god,
little homunculi.
I have to burn you and your sugar family. I'm so sorry.
We just wrote a Rick and Morty episode. What
We did. We
about,
just,
dude?
in this whole podcast, we literally just did. It's just like Rick and Morty popping around the fucking.
It is, man. It's like that. It's like that's was that the first episode where Morty gets attracted Summer or not Summer, girl crush, and so Rick creates a serum for him to use on her, so he falls for her, and then it causes the flu, and then interacts with the flu, and then everybody wants a piece of Morty. And they all turn into praying mantises.
That's
Yeah.
where we're going. That's where we're going if you start fucking gummy bear people, okay? So I'm going to stand against it, putting my foot down, and if you elect me as president, we will not have fucking gummy bear children in this country, okay? That's the platform. That's my platform.
That's the platform of your race.
That's what I'm. That's my
People
platform.
would be like, what gummy bear threat? Like,
you don't know about the gummy bear threat because they don't want you to know about the gummy bear threat. Your children could be gummy bears and you don't even know it.
Hold on, let's circle back around because you just reinitialized the point that you made earlier, which was fucking everybody does the same things regardless of where we start out in history. So you're inciting fear to create a problem so you could be the solution to the problem.
Yes.
And I think that goes all the way back to ubiquitous assimilation, where we've collected so much data as a society that nobody's opinions is really their individual opinion. It's all being stimulated from the same source of information. So how do you really know better than someone else if you got your shit from the same sources everybody else did? Mm-hmm. Wouldn't that just be like cockfighting without it being hard? Like just like little spaghetti noodles flopping against each other without even the courtesy of putting olive oil on it. Like, I mean, blah, blah. Sound effects. Onomatopoeias.
Cockfighting involves roosters, right? It's not like two guys just whipping their dicks around at each other, like, yeah.
Well, that's kind of how
maybe there is a type of cockfighting like that. But it's at least Webster's dictionary told me that cockfighting is between roosters.
That's called Greco-Roman wrestling. Oily man in the sand in their underwears, plastic penises flopping in the wind. That's Greco-Roman.
Oh my God! Could you imagine like a Greco-Roman doing a suplex? Like, yeah. DDT, motherfucker!
That makes for a great story.
Hey, man, can you not put your balls on my head? I'd really appreciate that.
Like, what happens if you took like modern day wrestlers and put them back in time to the time of like the Olympics when they first started? Greco-Roman history, where it's not fake and everything's real.
Look, we may have to get a deal with Pornhub, okay? But I think we can make that happen.
Them.
We can
watch them free in my state anymore.
We could definitely make that idea happen. And here's how we sell it to Pornhub. Like, look, okay, a bunch of pro wrestlers get transported back in time to ancient Greece, where it's wrestling, and they fucking mop the floor. They're all fucking naked. They're like, what are you doing with that spandex on, bud? Get that off. And there you go. I think they'll love it. You make it modern, and you have some females in there, too, and everybody gets transported back, and then everybody's just like, then you just like, you can have an orgy. There you go.
With a green screen and some cheap attire, I think we can make that happen.
That keeps the cost down. See, we're really spitballing here. I think we're ready for our pitch. We're ready for our pitch.
We're ready for Pornhub. Ready for Pornhub. Hangers just going Pornhub.
Get a
or
Game
Pornhub's
Shark.
going for Hangers.
Get a Gameshark. We're ready for Pornhub is the title of this fucking podcast.
Oh, greatness in motion right here.
Absolutely. The greatness, like ending off this podcast, because I know you have to sign off soon, man. I needed to podcast, and I was like, Mike, me, podcast, absolutely. This is gonna be fucking fantastic, and it was. I was right. It's almost like I've premonition, man. Me and you, I forget what we called it, but this is our new podcast. It's me and you fucking spitballing, man. Just have bullshit and having fun, because we went everywhere and anywhere all at once. That's the name of this podcast.
A far or long, long ago in a galaxy far, far away, gummy bear children.
Up until the gummy bear children, I was like, all right, I have an intro a long time ago in a podcast far, far away. Then you mentioned the gummy bear children, and I was like, I don't know how I could work that in. That's
if you're
very
gonna make
specific.
this a legit show, we need an intro like that with the letters and everything.
Yeah. Oh man,
I could do this one. Absolutely.
I'll work on the scrolling credits, Star Wars style. But one thing I want our fans to work on is to tuning in next week, because we love you, we miss you, and we want to see you then. Until then, game on, boys and girls. Bye-bye.
Don't forget your flash and blood plug.
Play on my channel.